Good morning. First video today, we're going to look at business calculations. Now there's 10 business calculations that you need to know for your Edexcel exam whenever you sit that, but we're going to focus on 3 today. We're going to focus on sales revenue, total costs and profit. Now this is used across themes 1 and 2. It's typically found in theme 1.3, so the year 9s at the minute. You will have been looking at this recently, and I know we've done a lot of blasts from the past. However, this is relevant for year 10 and year 11 as well, because it's used typically in all of the calculations that you're going to need to know in your exam. So we're going to start off with sales revenue. The first thing that we're going to need is some kind of context, some kind of business scenario, which I'm going to actually provide now. I'm going to take this from a past paper. So this small business has got 270 units. Now that 270 units is a monthly sale. So you can see that this small business sells 270 units a month, and the price of these units is £200. We're also going to now look at how we're going to work out the sales revenue. It's something that you should all be working on and remembering, because this is something that you will definitely need to know in your exam. 100%. It's going to be incorporated, as I said, in some of these calculations. It's a common thing that you need to know. So what is sales revenue? Well, sales revenue is simply how much money a business makes. So in this case, the formula is price times quantity. So once you've figured out this formula, I'm just going to get my blue pen now so you can actually highlight key points. It's quite simple to do, because all you need to do is take the information that you're given in your exam and then work out the actual information. My advice, sometimes they say when I've marked exams before, in the actual marking criteria, it says you can or cannot show the answers through workings out, but I would always recommend showing your workings out, because sometimes there is a mark available there. So you've got your price, which is obviously £200. You'll notice here I'm putting the pound symbol. I think it's important to make sure that you do that all the time. It's just good practice. And you're going to times the quantity, which again is the amount of units that the business sold. Now this unit could be one t-shirt, obviously at £200 it won't be, but let's say for example it could be bespoke mirrors. It could be a set of table and chairs. Who knows what it could be? It doesn't really matter unless they tell you. And then you've got the quantity in that month is 270. So all you simply need to do then is a quick calculation. Now in your business exams, themes 1 and 2, you are allowed to use a calculator. So for this example, I'm going to use a calculator. And my trusty phone here is going to act as that. So I'm just going to do this off screen. And we get a total there. And again, using the pound symbol, of £54,000. So you can quite clearly see here, guys, that business in month January, February, whenever the month is, has made £54,000 of sales revenue. That's the amount of money they've made. So that's quite a nice little sum here. Now what I'm going to do, you can obviously pause, rewind. This is the advantage of YouTube. This is new for all of us. We'll see how we go with this. But I'm just going to put this £54,000 at the top here in blue. And I'm going to put SR, just to highlight the fact that that's sales revenue, because we're going to come back to that figure in a second. Now this is the video edit that I would normally do, but I'm just going to rub this out now. And we're going to go on to the second point, which is total costs. So our sales revenue is £54,000. That doesn't include, unfortunately, all of the expenses that a business has to have in order to make that sales revenue. So we're going to look at 2 things to work out the total cost. The first thing that we're going to look at is fixed costs, and the second is variable costs. Now, for this example, I'm just open up my laptop again. We're going to have a fixed costs of £110. Remember, this is from an example in a past paper. And that is going to be per unit. I'll explain what that means in a second. Your fixed costs are going to be a little bit higher, and this is going to be £2,100. So we've got two costs here. We've got fixed and we've got variable. And what do they mean? What do the difference of these two mean? So your fixed costs do not change with the level of output you make. So for example, we know that this business sold 270 units in that month. A fixed cost, it wouldn't matter if you made 0 units, you would still have to pay that £2,100 because it doesn't change with the level of output, i.e. the level of the amount that you make. So for example, here you've got 270 units. So what would an example of a fixed cost be? Well, an example of a really good example of a fixed cost would be rent, because it doesn't matter if your factory or whatever your business that you're renting or your mortgage you're buying costs per month, you still got to pay it. It doesn't necessarily mean that you make anything that month. You might be setting it up in the first month, you still got to pay your rent, so it's a fixed cost. It does not change with the amount you make. Let's use tables and chairs as an example in these 270 units. A set of table and chairs, 270 units, they don't make anything, they've still got to pay their fixed cost, which is 2,100. So the variable cost then, you probably guessed this, but the variable cost does change with the level of output. So if a business makes 10 tables and chairs that month, or 270 tables and chairs that month, the variable cost will change. So you'll notice here, and you will see this in your exam, and you will see this in examples and in past papers, you can see you've got 110 per unit. And your fixed cost is 2,100. So, how are we going to work out the total costs? So the total costs formula equals your fixed costs plus your variable costs. So, your total costs and your fixed costs. Your total costs is your fixed cost plus your variable costs. So, we need to work out these. Well, we now already have said that the fixed costs don't change, so it doesn't matter how many you produce. We produced 270 units that month, but it doesn't matter. They're not going to change. So, we already can put that information in. We know that that's going to be 2,100. A common mistake students make, and this is something, I'm going to make this mistake and then I'm going to correct it for you, because this is a common mistake students make, a misconception. I've seen this lots of times when I mark papers. They simply find the variable cost and they put 110. And then they add these two together and they get something like, well, let's just add that up together, £2,210. That's wrong. Why is it wrong? I'll give you 10 seconds to think about it. It's a long time to have 10 seconds when you're actually doing this, so we'll stop there. But you can quite simply see variable costs change with the level of output. So I'm going to change this now. Change the answer there. You need to do a simple calculation here. You need to times that by the amount of units that you sell, which is 270. So you can quite simply see here your variable costs, they change with the level of output. You need to multiply the cost because it's per unit. Remember, we were selling 270 that month, so we're going to actually do that now. So we're going to take 110, and I'm just going to again get my calculator out because I'm allowed to do that in my exam, because you're allowed to have phones, not phones, you're allowed to have calculators. So 110 times 270 is 29,700. So I now know that the fixed and variable costs are 2,100 and 29,700. Now just to repeat, I got that variable cost by times in the 110 by the 270. That's how I got that figure. Remember, your variable cost is 110 per unit. I sold 270 tables and chairs as an example. So there is your variable cost. So I'm now going to add those figures together I don't need a calculator for this, thank God. So we've got, I'm just going to take that off there, excuse me a second. So we've now got £31,800. So the total costs for me to make all those those tables and chairs with 270 tables and chairs was 31,800. Okay, I'm now going to put into the profit. So I'm going to take this off again, and I'm going to put my total costs up here in the left hand or the right hand side, and that's 31,800. We're then going to go on to the third point, which is profits. I'll just take all this off. Okay, so the final part. And in some respect, this is the easiest part, because all you've got to do is you've got to take away what you've earned from what you've spent. So let's do profit here. And let's be honest, that's why businesses go. That's why people go into businesses, to make money, to make a profit. They don't want to make a loss, because otherwise they won't be able to pay their bills, suppliers, etc. So, profit. How do we work this out? Well, your sales revenue. Remember, this is the money that you made. Was £54,000. £54,000, and your total costs was 31,800. So to work out your profit, I'll do this in blue. You simply take the 2 away, and you get something. I'm just going to do this on a calculator to make sure it is 100% accurate. I would advise that. Don't try and guess the result, because otherwise you might make mistakes. So 54 minus 31,800. And you get a total here of £22,000, £200. So that concludes the first part of this lesson. I'll bring you some more business calculations in the coming weeks. Just remember, you've got your sales revenue, your total cost, and your profit. In a question, you may be asked to use all 3 of these formulas. You may be asked to use this one, or this one. Who knows what the question will come up, but it's important to know all 3. Hope you're all safe and well. Thank you very much. Have a good day. Bye-bye.